Hey everyone, you are listening to the Rival and Queen podcast. My name's Ashley.
And I'm Sarah.
Sarah, how are you today?
I'm so happy to be here on a Thursday with everyone.
I know, we've got so much to talk about this week.
A very fun episode.
Oh my gosh.
All the good things are
very
happening.
relevant and so exciting. We just want to remind everyone that we are now doing an all-talk Rival and Queen edition with just us.
Every month. We just put our first one out last week and we've gotten some good feedback. You guys are lovely. And we've already made some changes for the second one. So if you have any notes for us, send them over.
Yeah, if you want to hear Sarah and I talk a bunch of nonsense sometimes or get on some shenanigans and topics,
or
tune in.
Yeah, or if you want to give us topics to talk about, we would love that.
Yeah, we can address them from our own points of views, which we love doing.
And it's just another continuation of our adventure together, discovering how to become our most queenly selves, you know?
We're trying. Every week we're trying. This week we talked to Jean-eva Dickie all about matchmaking, which we'll get to here soon, but that was really informative.
Oh, Jean-eva's fabulous. And I've never worked with a matchmaker. She's the only one on the East Coast, but she is such a wealth of knowledge. She's constantly pairing people up, and she gave us all the online dating tips. So stay tuned for those because they are so good. Like, my mind was blown.
Mm-hmm. And I think that we're always trying to better ourselves and show up as better versions of Ashley and Sarah, just whether it be work or for friends and family. And sometimes I don't really think you put that spin on dating, like trying to show up. You talked about this, Sarah, like in your best self to potentially go on a date with like a complete stranger. So I find it's really interesting. It's something I think you have to, really show up for yourself and honor the process.
Well, and as we talked about on our All Talk episode, in one of my most humanly dating experiences where I didn't show up that well,
very recently,
she actually gave some advice on what you could have done better in that situation. But I think she brought up those points as like, we all have these triggers and those are on us to work through. So.
And I think it's something that some people, I know I mentioned in the episode, may have watched Patty Stanger, who was Millionaire Matchmaker, who used to, Sarah, like crucify people, line them up and just like make fun of their outfits and then like put them together at these little mixers. And
I've never seen this. I got to go back and watch
it because she did a good job, but she was like very mean. Maybe that's why it doesn't exist anymore. But I think that a lot of people, at least here, and like you said, Jean-eva is the only one in the East Coast, but aren't really familiar with working with a matchmaker. Like they just think their matchmaker is their phone and Tinder or online dating.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, you will like this episode. It may open you up to working with a matchmaker. I think there's a ton of value, as you'll see or hear, listening to Jean-eva. And, we're getting some gift certificates going for the single people in our life for Christmas. So,
oh, yeah.
Greg Sampson, mark your calendar.
Yeah, Mark Boudreau. We might get him one. We'll postmark his for
our producer
next year. No, she gave really good advice just all around for first dates for men specifically, women specifically.
And in the spirit of all that, I'm going to share some of my first date experiences with you that I think you will enjoy. So this one is actually, when you hear it in the episode, it goes against all the advice Jean-eva gives. And this was with someone I ended up actually having a long-term relationship with. But I will tell you, I was never evidently great at dating. And God love this person for showing up on the first date. So he booked, I do try to like step back and let guys take the lead and plan what they want. So he wrote me, was like, oh, I called that restaurant for a reservation, but all I have was 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So I went with 6. First of all, getting me anywhere before, I'm better now, but anywhere before 9 o'clock is like not a guarantee that I'll be there. And so when he chose
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, no, it's like 9 o'clock is like, I can be there for them. But if you want me somewhere before 9 o'clock, that's like not a guarantee, let alone 6 o'clock. Like I think the old people were at dinner then, like the seniors club. That's what I was thinking. So anyways, I'm like, okay, 6 o'clock, no problem. And I knew so 2 things then happened. At 4:30, I'm sitting on my friend's couch at her house, not ready, thinking, I'm not ready to go on this date right now.
And this was the first date?
This is the first date. Okay. So at 5 o'clock, I texted him and I'm like, I won't be ready for 6. Can we make it 9 instead?
You would do that.
So then he's called and made a reservation at this restaurant. I knew that they don't give you reservations in the bar lounge because they don't hold those seats. So we would be up on the second or third floor of this restaurant. Again, snooze fest. Surely a bunch of old people still up there even at 9. So then I call the restaurant because I know the manager. He was a friend of mine. And I pull a few strings. I'm like, listen, I'm going on a date. You got to get me on the main floor in the bar lounge.
At 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock. So he arranges it. And when we show up to the restaurant, the guy I was with was so confused because he had made a reservation for the second floor of this restaurant.
And you took over.
And no, I said nothing. I like pretended I hadn't done anything. And we were right in, the thick of it. I loved it. At 9 o'clock, he was very patient. And we had a long relationship after that. So that worked out okay. But I think I was a handful on that date. And I will also tell you, on that date, I was sitting, his back was like to the main restaurant. My back was against the wall and I could see the restaurant. And there were these 2 guys who kept going out for smoke breaks. And one of them kept standing behind him, asking me for my number, like
really?
Right behind him.
Oh my God.
And I was so awkward. Like I was just like trying to look away. Yeah, he kept like standing behind me, like mouthing things at me, being like, "You're so beautiful. Can I have your number? I want to take you out."
And you didn't get up.
He followed me to the washroom at one point.
Were you alarmed, or did you like it?
Well, I wasn't into it, but I was just like more so like flustered on a first date after I had like already pulled all these stunts before we even showed up, and then this guy's like hitting on me during the date.
That's amazing.
Anyways, props to the guy. He handled it all well, and God love him for his patience. However, I have one other recent first date that I will say COVID friendly, and I thought this was fabulous. I didn't know this person. We met, we walked to the liquor store, got a bunch of beer or wine, not a bunch, like 2 or 3, and we walked to Citadel Hill and sat on the hill and enjoyed drinks in the park. And he arranged and planned all that. I thought like he had that as a plan when we met, and I thought that was fabulous.
And you'll hear more about that with Jean-eva, is talking about how to plan an activity as a first date. It doesn't have to be a big, expensive, over-the-top dinner or something that's going to bust the guy's budget, because in her mind, it should be the guy paying. But an activity like that, I think, is so practical, and just like, especially now, being outside is nice. And something different. And if you're worried about COVID, you can stay 6 feet apart. It's all good. Yes, there's ways around it.
Staying in this vein of dating and fun pickup lines, we're going to jump to Ashley's got a pickup line she wanted to share with us.
Well, I couldn't quite remember it, but do you guys remember the Philadelphia cream cheese angel, who's apparently, it's a debacle now that I've looked this up, that she's retiring and people are not happy about it. So I'm looking for a new one. But there was a commercial that said, "Did it hurt?" And then you say, "Did what hurt? When you fell from heaven?" I dug my way up from hell. What's that? Okay, those are cheesy, but we all have heard them. Do people still say them?
Replay it, and you ask your pickup line, and I'm gonna do the answers.
Did it hurt?
Did what hurt?
When you fell from heaven.
Oh, my heart! Take me home now. I'm yours.
Match, perfect match.
I just found one that I liked. Ashley, how do you like your eggs in the morning?
Poached.
Me too.
I was gonna say scrambled, but I like.
Is that
wanted
how
to
you
make
like
something
your eggs?
more complicated, like for the.
Yeah. How would you actually have your eggs?
Well, most of the time I'm in a hurry and I'm lazy, and the
no
scrambled.
Dream eggs. Like
Poached.
Think of
like
poached.
Ideally poached.
Runaway bride. Poached. Okay, remember she makes all the different eggs. Mine are poached as well.
She agrees for whatever the guy's favorite egg is.
And then she has to make them all to decide.
Yeah.
Are you a soft poach, medium, hard?
I like medium, soft to medium. I want it to still be runny, but like hot enough that it's
not watery.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Definitely not cooked all the way.
I make poached eggs all the time. They're really the only kind I like. 3 minutes.
You'll have to teach me.
It's all good.
Yeah, reach out to us and let us know either your most terrible dating experiences or stories and your pickup lines, because we love them.
Or your best dating experiences.
Or best, yeah. And maybe you're with your partner that you've been with, like on a first date, or even from hearing one of these like really hilarious lines. Maybe that got you. Who knows?
I would love to actually read out here next week someone's first date story. That is like fabulous. I think that would be super fun.
If they come, Sarah, we'll do it.
We will do it. So please tell us. Guys, we're going to dive in with Jean-eva Dickie. We loved her. We loved her energy. You can check her out on her own podcast, The Book of Love, and follow her on Instagram at J-E Matchmaking or her website, jematchmaking.com. And yeah, you're about to get all the goodness, all the tips, how to date online, your daily to do if you're online dating, how to get ready for the first date,
do's and don'ts.
The do's and don'ts, the 3 things that really matter when you're meeting someone to evaluate if maybe it is a good match for you. And then also we get a bunch of listener questions in on this app.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest one, I just want to throw it there.
Throw it.
Lower your expectations. Go on a date. If they're here, bring them down. That's the biggest takeaway. So let's just dive in so Jean-eva can give us her expert advice. We are so excited to have Jean-eva, matchmaking professional, joining us this evening. Welcome, Jean-eva.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're so excited. I think that a majority of people have definitely dated or tried online dating and apps, but I don't think a lot of people, no one I know of, Sarah, have done like a professional matchmaking service.
Well, I'm the only one east of Montreal, and I've only been here for about 2.5 years. So if they haven't come to me, they probably haven't used a matchmaker.
Well, we're so excited to have you here. We've been looking forward to this episode for a while, and it's very popular. We've gotten, a lot of questions in advance of this episode. So I think people are excited to hear from you.
Well, like you said, I mean, dating is something that everybody has been through. And if they haven't, they're fascinated by it anyhow, and they can't wait to hear stories about it. And I'm really excited to share what I know with you guys.
I love that. And it's so interesting because now, obviously, we're still in the midst of some COVID things and stuff like that. But I can remember before that anyway, Sarah was at my house a few years ago and we insisted that she download a dating app. I don't remember which one it was.
It was Hinge.
And she was like cringing, like just this was the worst thing. Because you're probably like a lot of people rather meet people in person and kind of like understand if there's a bit of a connection or something that's kind of like sparked their interest. So can you kind of tell us how like you facilitate matchmaking and like how you kind of started your journey in matchmaking?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, probably with all the listeners, I think everybody started online dating with like in a room with girlfriends and they set up the profile for you. Like that's pretty much how everybody gets into it. But yeah, in regards to matchmaking, it was just a natural journey. So I used to be a geomatics engineer in a different life out in Calgary. And when I moved back here for my 30th birthday, when I moved back to Nova Scotia, I was just looking for something to do. I liked hosting events and I didn't have a good social group of people here. So a friend of mine was hosting speed dating events in Toronto and she kind of told me how they went. So I just threw one at Line and Bright, I guess, over 2 years ago. And I just noticed with speed dating events, I could watch these people leave together and I'm just thinking they are so incompatible. They are not going to last a month. And there's going to be so much time wasted. And so about 6 months into me hosting these events, which Halifax fell in love with and had to keep going to, I started the matchmaking, which was just building a database, honestly. So I just put the word out there. I already had a following with the speed dating. I put a word out there that I was converting into matchmaking. And we had a ton of people come in, get in the Book of Love, and I would just introduce them and send them out on dates. And then I noticed that like there's a lot of people that are coming in the Book of Love, and I could honestly send them out with their perfect person. And there's so many blocks. There's so much past trauma or past experiences from previous relationships that would hold them back from succeeding in that relationship. So then that is when I really started the dating coaching, which has rocket shipped our success rate through the roof here at J-E Matchmaking. And that was just started at the very beginning of lockdown, the first one. So
Crazy. That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's kind of nice to hear how you evolved from one event into all these different services, because I didn't even really understand until we kind of met, like what a matchmaker does. But it's nice to hear you talk about, first of all, I love the name, The Book of Love. I think that is hilarious that you call it that. So cute. And to hear you talk about compatibility.
Yeah, because compatibility is where it starts, it ends. So there's three things that we should be looking for. Of course, attraction is super important. Chemistry is super important. But then once we have chemistry and attraction, we're like, oh, we're good, we're done. And we don't take any time to check for compatibility. And then before you know it, a year later, 6 months later, a year and a half later, you're breaking up because you don't want children and they do, or, you know, whatever it may be. So checking for compatibility is very important. And that's why it's really important to come to a matchmaker as well. And it's funny because I matchmake in different ways. We matchmake with people existing in the Book of Love. We have a huge database, over 500 singles in Nova Scotia. But we also matchmake just based on my social network as well. There was this woman that came in today, and the minute she started talking, I was like, oh, you're perfect for my friend Steve. So I contacted Steve and like, yeah, let's go on a date. So yeah, we're doing a lot of that too.
I love that.
You're a little connector.
One of the things you talked about is compatibility. Could you actually tell us what is compatibility and like what should we be looking for?
Compatibility really is everything. So one thing that we don't do when we decide to go into the dating world is we don't truly figure out what it is we're looking for in a partner. And I don't mean I want someone tall, handsome, you know, whatever those criteria may be. I mean, what's important to you? You know, are you ambitious? Are you more laid back? Do you have huge goals for the future? Or do you just want to start a family and that would be totally content for you? And really reflecting in on you, your identity, and then in turn flipping that around to figure out what it is you're looking for in a partner based on being fully aware of who you are and what you're looking for.
Interesting. So it starts with ourselves.
Always.
When you were rhyming off that list, I was just thinking of, I've had more than one person ask me if I was willing to live off the grid. And then actually I'm like, why do these men find me? And the answer is no. And I'm like, let's just end this now.
And something else that's coming to mind is like the attraction and the chemistry, I feel like is probably blinding to a lot of people. Like you said, for a month or a couple months down the road, that the compatibility isn't front and center. They're just so into the attraction of this, being attracted, to this person that, yeah, it can be, I mean, there's lots of people that get divorced, I think, after the fact, like you said, that decide, oh, I don't want to have kids, or I want to move off the grid, whatever it is. But things you should definitely like discuss, I guess, up front.
I love that you said attraction is blinding, because it truly, truly is. Like, that is such the proper word for that. Good looks are blinding. It'll blind you from red flags. It'll blind you from incompatibility. It will blind you from unkindness. It will blind you from the most important things out there. If you are basing your partnering up based on how you're attracted to them or how they look, it is so blinding. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been blinded several times in my life, and it was fun for a bit, but it definitely wasn't longevity based.
No, we've been there. I think that's fair to say.
I think everybody's been there.
So going back to the compatibility piece, it sounds like that it starts with some self-reflection and figuring out what we truly want. And then is it about, I guess it's about being honest about that when you're getting to know someone.
It is. And honest in the communication, especially, I know that you guys have a lot of female listeners, especially as women, society feels that if we bring up what our needs are in a relationship early on, we're considered needy, or we're considered high maintenance, or whatever it may be. But when it's time to find a partner, you have to know what you want, and you need to ask those questions and communicate that early on in a relationship. And I'm talking date 3, 4, 5. Like, I'm not talking you guys have been dating for 3 months and they're like, okay, now let's bring it up. Like, girls, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for 3 months here, 3 months there, 3 months here. Like, we want this on third, fourth, fifth date where we're talking about, like, what's your vision for children in the future? Do you consider yourself ambitious? Like, what is your future plans for your career? And really keeping an eye on their answer and how they react to the question that you ask, and being aware of the body language that's coming back at you. And it's the same with men. You know, a lot of the time women like to say, and men too, but they like to answer a question based on what they think the other person wants to hear, because they want to be a people pleaser, or they want to be liked and they don't want to be rejected. But you have to be honest. You have to have frank conversations early on. It's very important.
I like hearing that, date 3 and 4. That makes sense.
And I think, and is that something you do, is help coach women to perhaps be able to have these conversations, because you don't want it to go to 3-4 months down the road and realize, oh, I should have brought it up previously, or for guys as well.
Yeah, I do a lot of coaching with that, because I remember actually just last week I had a conversation with this gal that's going through one of my Wing Woman boot camps. And she basically calls me every single day because she's dating like crazy, which is what our goal is like, if we're ready to partner up, we need to date like crazy for 3 months and really meet a lot of people. And she called me and she said, okay, he disappears via text message. He doesn't communicate properly. They're going on their 4th date. So I was like, well, bring it up. Like, bring it up in a fun, cheeky kind of, clever way, but bring it up early on and see what his reaction is like. See if he's willing to change, or if you're saying like, or if he's like, oh, that's just how I text, like whatever, like that's how it is, get over it. Then you're like, okay.
Classic answer.
Is that a red flag, Jean-eva?
It's a red flag to me.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm dating people now. I was going to say a couple people. Not that I shouldn't say
just
that.
one now.
Mark's looking at me like that. But it is like, it's interesting because it's a hard thing to call someone out for. But I also know my own behavior. If I want to talk to someone, I will text them, even if I don't like being on my phone. And so when someone's like on a 2-day text response, I'm like, I just don't care. Like, you could do better than this. If you actually truly want to be dating, I'm like, it's a hard thing to call someone out on so early, but it's also like, people need to be willing to show up for themselves at least.
And maybe, not a red flag, but something that's like annoying and something that might like push away the relationship in a way. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. What do you think?
Just annoying.
Well, the $65 matchmaking fee, which is setting up the date, covers dating coaching from first date to committed relationship. Majority of that coaching is literally the first month and a half, just being like, he's not texting me enough, or she over texts or doesn't text me enough. And I'm like, calm down. It's okay. Just pick up the phone and call them, or plan another date and see them in person again. Majority of my coaching the first month is lack of communication via text message. There's all these little graves like spread along the world of these potential amazing relationships that were completely ruined because of text messaging. So I think it's something that you should communicate. I know that the guy that I'm currently dating, probably on the 3rd or 4th date, I said, listen, this is not going to work, because like this texting, the way you text is not going to work, because this is how I am in a relationship. And when you don't text back, this is how I feel about this. And he actually, and I've never actually had this before, which is why I was like, I'm going to continue on with him. He's like, you know what? I'm actually going to try to be better. He's like, I know what that feels like, and I know that I can be bad for that. So now we just text a little bit better, and just that little bit of communication and him deciding to work on it with me was all it took for me to just be like, okay, I think I could keep going with this.
This is so interesting, because I feel like in so many levels of our lives that texting, there's so many miscommunications that happen around text. So I love like your ability to just put it out there, let him know. And I don't know, it's just funny we have to think about communicating through text specifically.
I like hearing about that too, because I think it's a good way that it's, even if someone is bad at texting, you don't have to totally write them off. You can at least make the time to bring it up in a nice way.
Oh, I know. Well, I could have ended it with this guy a million times, but we're still going strong, and it gets better and better. And I'm really glad I didn't, right? Because my past habits prior to like becoming a dating coach and matchmaker, I was just a single person 2 years ago that was flailing in the dating world. So all the mistakes that I'm still making are, I've learned more becoming a dating coach, but I would have ended it probably 7 times, but I kept going, and he's such a catch that I'm like, I'm going to keep going, and it's all based on communication. And I'm so glad I did, because past habits are past habits for a reason, and they keep you single. They keep you single.
Oh, that's good. That's a good reminder. I love that.
So let's dive back into kind of what it would be like to work with you or a matchmaker if you're kind of, I guess you can work with people near and far as well. Like what would people kind of do to get going, and how would they actually get you to know them so that you could find them a mate?
Yeah, so we do have quite an extensive interview process. And so I'm not an elite matchmaker. I will never be an elite matchmaker.
What is an elite matchmaker?
So an elite matchmaker is the matchmakers you see in Toronto, Vancouver, LA, all that kind of stuff, where you have to be like a millionaire to come into the matchmaking program, or you have to make a certain amount of money. You have to be elite, quote unquote.
Like Patty Stanger.
Okay.
Yes. Exactly. So I'm more of like a matchmaker for the people. So I believe in
for regular people.
But just like people, do you know what I mean? I believe if you are kind, and mostly we have very busy professionals that are coming to us, they don't have the time to date. We do have very elite people in the Book of Love. We have just normal people in the Book of Love, and we have everything in between. And so what we do is we match accordingly. So it doesn't have to all be elite to match properly, because we match based on social economic levels, ambition levels, what your vision is for the future, personality types, all of that great things. So we don't have to just stick to a certain demographic of people. But what the next step would be is to book in a phone consultation at my website. So www.jematchmaking.com. You just book in a 15-minute phone consultation. This is where myself and you, or we have 2 associate matchmakers here, and things get pretty busy. So sometimes they're jumping on the phone. We just basically see what it is you're looking for, answer all your questions. There's no hidden anything here. It's like, this is what we do. This is how everything works. And that phone call will really describe all of it. And then if it makes sense after the phone call, I send you a link where you can fill out your Book of Love profile, which is very extensive. Super important when it comes to matchmaking and coaching. You tell me everything about you, what you're looking for in a partner, add several pictures, because pictures are the currency of the dating world. You have to have perfect pictures. And if you don't, I'm going to wait until you do. And then you and I sit down for a 1-hour consultation. Currently they're over Zoom, but previously we'd have them coming and sitting down with me, and it's 1 hour of us sitting down and getting to know each other. Majority of the clients that come through do have to go through some sort of coaching. It could be something as little as, trying to figure out what it is you're looking for in a partner and doing some exercises to help you with that. And some people think when they come to a matchmaker, she's got this magic wand, she's going to wave it and go to the laboratory and cook up my perfect partner and send me out to it. But majority of people just need the tiniest little mindset adjustment, because today's dating culture is terrible when you think about it. And when we come to a matchmaker, we bring a lot of those past experiences and mindset to it. And when we come into J-E Matchmaking, the foundation is dating with kindness. So we start there and we kind of like restart you, and then we send you out on great dates. It's a lot slower than a lot of people think. So on average, you'll get 1 date every 3 months, maybe 1 date a month if you're lucky. But we also have speed dating events. We have mixers. We're going to be planning a singles weekend in 2022. I'm so excited. And so there's lots of other options and training and boot camps. But if you're ready and serious to find your partner, it's a great first step.
I love that. Jean-eva, one of the things that you've said to us before is you think dating today is the worst ever. I've heard you say that. So tell us about that. Why do you think that?
Well, what's your guys' experience with dating today? I know you're dating today. What's your experience with it? You like it, don't you?
I don't think Mark's looking at me too. Ashley's not dating today.
Eyes on Sarah. I haven't dated in 16 years, so this is why I'm so intrigued. And tell us, Sarah.
I think so as Ashley said before, I don't love necessarily online dating, because I miss the aspect of getting to meet people in real life, because you can immediately see if there's any chemistry. So I feel, I think that part of online dating is a bit frustrating because you're almost like a step back.
And like judging.
And yeah, it's just like you don't get to see them in a social life. And I think for me, especially, like I have a very big personality. I'm like loud, outgoing. So if someone's shy or like cares what other people think around them, then like I'm not a good person for them to date. Do you know what I mean?
You
like,
need people to see you in the wild to know if that's for me.
It's better as a match to be like, rather than me end up on a date with someone who's incredibly shy. Like that'd be terrible. So that is kind of my stigma around online dating that I've held from the beginning. But now, like actually through COVID, and I think you've talked about how your business grew so much through COVID. It's like I had to let go of that because there was no other option. So I actually became much more comfortable with it. And I think now that I've gone on a few dates through dating apps, I've like gotten into the rhythm of actually recognizing when I'm connecting with someone over text and when that's going to go to a meetup. Because at first it was just very frustrating, like texting a bunch of people and then you never actually, it just kind of fizzles out. Mm-hmm. Like that was just felt like a massive waste of time.
And you've also met some nice guys.
Yes.
Yeah, you do meet some nice guys. And that's what I want to keep telling everybody. And like the best thing that you said is, at the very beginning, it's frustrating because you think it's going to be like normal conversation, but it's not. It's a completely different beast. So long as you stay open-minded and you are able to determine if somebody is good or bad, or you're able to determine that the conversation is decent enough to meet up. One huge mistake people make when they're on online dating is they just want to meet in person, but they don't qualify that conversation at all. So if they're not having a good conversation over online dating, they're definitely not going to have a good conversation in person.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Interesting.
I know.
Like forget about the profiles and the picture. Like who cares? It's the conversation, man.
I know.
Like if something even intrigues you, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. As someone can carry on a conversation via text, because it's not like easy. It's kind of hard because you don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think here was the biggest switch for me is before I used to feel like, is this person just wasting my time? Like, is this person a waste of time? Which is a terrible thing to think about anyone. And then when I realized is actually, this isn't about the other person at this stage. Me showing up to text and get to know people is actually more about me showing up for myself and having that kindness to do that and extend that to someone else.
Yeah. Right. Because there's someone on the other side.
Well, I'm doing it for me. Yeah. In hopes that they're trying. And if they aren't, then that's okay. Like it's not about them. It's about me. And I think that helped, that like switch helped me be more open to it.
That's amazing. That's an amazing mindset to have. And it makes the whole experience more enjoyable for you as well. So that as you move forward, you're enjoying online dating much more.
Yeah. And I think like Ashley said, I've met some nice guys. They weren't matches, but like lovely humans.
Like good experiences.
Yeah. And we were able to have like nice conversations of like, actually like, this probably isn't a fit, but it was great to meet you. Like would love to see you around again. Like people I genuinely enjoyed spending time with. So once I've kind of gotten through that, I have more faith.
And that would probably also happen if you saw someone out at an event or a bar that you might be initially attracted to them, start talking, and then you're just like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I feel like there's always a process, no matter online. But like, why, Jean-eva, tell us why you think it's the worst time for dating ever.
So I say the worst and then I say the best. So like, when have you ever been able to lay in bed at 10 p.m. and talk to a complete stranger that potentially could be your future partner? Like never, right? So we have an extremely powerful way of meeting people. But when it's like giving somebody a gun though, because when you're not trained on it properly or you don't have the proper mindset, it's going to be used for evil. Because like it's this very huge blockage between you and the other human on the other side, and you have no feeling towards that person, so there's a lot of negativity going on. And I mean, when we can get into the whole why is it the worst thing ever, but there's lots of options out there. That's number one. So people are always thinking the grass is greener on the other side, and people don't give anybody a chance. I mean, we just think, okay, he doesn't check this off or she doesn't check this off, so I'm just going to call this quits and go find something better. And I have had lots of people who have been doing that for 10 years, if not more, and they're coming in and they're waiting, they want their person, but they've been doing it wrong for a decade and it's almost too late. If they're willing to be coached, we can bring them back to the proper mindset to move forward through it. But I've seen a lot of damage being done based on that mindset, and definitely online dating and having the accessibility to all these people is creating a lot more damage. It's also creating a lot of damage on people's social abilities. I know you ladies are really great at being able to socialize. It's just sort of natural, but a lot of the time we still have to work on it. I don't know if you guys came out of lockdown and you forgot how to have a conversation with another human being for the first day. I think everybody did. So if you don't work that muscle, it's going to atrophy. And, you have to really push yourself to get out and meet new people. And you have to push yourself to be in uncomfortable positions and go on those dates that might not be the future partner, and then come out of it with the proper mindset that this was a learning experience. And now you know what you don't want even more, so that when you see something you do want, you're going to know it. So I think today's dating culture is a powerful, beautiful thing. We just have to be trained properly, have the proper mindset, because if you don't and you're on the negative side of it, it can get really bad really fast.
So what is the proper mindset and how should we approach it when we're doing online dating?
Stop feasting and famming is number one. These people go on for a week, swipe everybody in one night, and then they're like, nobody's on here. And then they delete their stuff. So when you go on and you're on a swiping fiend, you no longer connect with the other person as a human being. You're no longer, reading profiles. It's just all down to the main picture. And these people are people. These people are other human beings, and they can't be, grouped based on 147 characters or whatever is on online dating and 7 pictures. That's not the human that is there. So I like to have people pick one app. Hinge is my favorite. You just do it habitually. I like people to look at 10 profiles a day. You read through all of the profiles. Women, be a little bit more active and feel free to send out a cheeky, interesting, fun message to the guy you like out of the 10 profiles you've seen that day. And then start conversing, but chill out on the swiping. Do more of like a habit-based, we're not necessarily going on there for the existing pool of people. We're like sitting next to the pool, waiting for that great guy to just jump in and then get overwhelmed and jump off. But we're there too. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So staying on, being consistent is huge.
I like that being
consistent. I feel like you started to think more like that, Sarah.
Yeah, so I'm not, and I'm glad you're telling us this because I'm feeling better. I think once I switched it from online dating and started treating people like they were all real humans, and I think this is what you're talking about, is like the internet creates this mask of like, oh, who cares, there's another. But once I was like, no, these are like humans like me, and you start treating them like that, then you aren't on this swiping frenzy. So I'm using Bumble right now, and I just tried it because I'd never been on it before, and I have had better dates and conversations through that than Hinge. But I think it's because through Hinge, I was like swiping too much, and you get like 10 random conversations going, and that's too much for me to process. Yeah. So now I've kind of switched to just with Bumble, because you only have 24 hours to like communicate with someone. I only look at like 3 profiles at once max, because I can't have 10 conversations. So actually what you're saying, like slowing that down, has helped me have a better experience too. So I'm glad that I'm on the right track.
Yeah. And you did it naturally all by yourself.
I was very overwhelmed.
I'm sure most people are. So if you're out there listening, you've found someone that you've swiped and it's been good, you decide I want to go on a date, or you've met them, however, what can both parties kind of do to prepare themselves to make it a good, successful date, whether it's even a good match or not? Like, what can they bring that helps facilitate that?
Mindset is huge. So just going into the fact with lower your expectations, number one.
We don't
Lower
often,
your
that's not usually the
Probably
starting
the
point.
reverse usually. Yeah.
So, okay, so it's the same when you're going to approach someone. You kind of are like, okay, this guy is so handsome or this gal is so beautiful. So I'm going to approach them and then maybe we can get married and have children. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you
Right.
approach it with the mindset of, I'm actually just making another human connection with another human on this planet, and maybe we're going to have a great conversation. If it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't, great. That's kind of like lowering your expectations on the outcome of the date.
You know what? That's actually a very good point.
Yeah, I like
Because
that.
I don't do it as much now, but especially when, like you said earlier, Ashley, the blinding attraction is on. I'm like, oh my God, I could marry this person. That'd be perfect. They're so beautiful. That'd be great.
We won't mention any names, but we hear that once a week at least.
From someone.
They know who they
Shout
are.
out.
But that's a big part. Sorry, Sarah.
I know, but it's funny because sometimes you like see like you're getting to know someone, and then actually I catch myself and I'm like evaluating these like big life milestones. I'm like, I barely know this person. I do not have to assess if I think they could fit into these situations yet. And it's funny, you just like subconsciously go there.
You do.
Thank you.
And it's actually important to keep those expectations low, even when you're dating 2, 3, 4, 5 dates in.
Yeah.
Like just chill out. It's huge.
Okay.
Planning a great date is a good idea. Men, plan the freaking date. I just cannot even with these hangouts. I can't even like when the guys are like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Just have like 5 dates to pull from. And everybody's thinking we're having a pandemic right now. What do? Grab a coffee, go for a walk, and look at the huge buildings in the South End. Go skating in the Commons when that opens up in December. There's a million things that you can do if you just put a little bit of effort into
Go for
it.
a hike, maybe.
Yeah.
Go for a hike.
Surfing, dear God. No. Someone has recently asked me to go surfing. And in my mind, I'm like, it's winter.
And I've never surfed.
So
but kudos, maybe that the right woman that will spark something, Sarah.
I mean, who knows? You could see me out in the water in another week.
So be outside, kind of play safe, do something a little more adventurous, have the guy plan it. What would be some don'ts?
Not to do on a first date. I have a lot of don'ts. Don't go for full dinners anywhere. Nobody wants to be stuck at a dinner for an hour and a half with somebody that you have no chemistry with. So we want to keep it relatively low key. First dates don't have to be any longer than an hour and a half. We don't have to have 5-hour first dates or 3-hour first dates. So if you would just want to, I know we can't go grab cocktails, but say it's not a pandemic right now. If you just want to grab a cocktail somewhere and then go for a walk along the waterfront, or go through for a walk in the park, or go to the arcade at Propeller and hang out for a bit, grab one of those e-scooters and scoot around. I love to grab one drink, one coffee or something like that, and then go do something fun where you can actually interact with each other. So you're not staring at each other, interviewing each other for an hour and a half.
Right.
Activities are important.
I'm trying to think of good dates I've been on, but I can't. I feel like I've had some. They're not coming to me right now.
Well, winter is your favorite season, Sarah. So maybe there's lots of winter adventure, dating, skiing.
Send them to me.
Oh my gosh, I've had some amazing dates. Like, honestly, if there's anything I can teach, the minute someone gets into a relationship, I'm like, I'm done. I can't coach you anymore because I have no idea how to do that. But I can date like nobody's business. And I have been on some amazing dates.
Tell us your best.
Always, all of my amazing dates, the guy actually planned it. And he was honestly planning something that he was already going to do anyhow, but he just invited me along.
Well, that's nice.
So I remember there's this one guy, just came back from Calgary, and I was in Truro just staying with my parents before I got a place here in the city. And so anyhow, he was a friend from high school, and he's like, let's go do something. I'm like, cool. So he shows up on the date, and I'm all dressed ready for like an evening out, and he shows up in all camo, and I'm like, oh God. But then he had a quad in the back of his truck, and he's like, well, we're going quadding. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I went upstairs and changed into like outdoor gear. We went up to the highest point in Nova Scotia. He pulls out the quad, teaches me how to drive it. We drove all around those windmills up in Tatamagouche area at night. And we just like spent all this time together. But he was going to do it anyhow. He just invited me with him, and it was a fun activity.
Oh, that's a great one. Okay, so guys plan the dates, get an activity involved, don't make it too long, lower your expectations. Is there anything else we need for the first date?
No full dinners. First date, especially if you're meeting online, if you already know the guy, go hiking. But first date, I don't go for drives. I don't go for hiking only because of safety reasons. Second date, go for hikes all day long. That's a great idea. Don't go for coffee. That's actually huge too. So a lot of people think, okay, I have to date a bunch. So I'm going to say yes to going out with this guy, but I need to schedule it in. So I'm going to write it into my calendar and we're going to go for a coffee. It's going to be an hour. I'm going to wear my best blazer and we're going to sit down and I'm going to interview him about everything. I want something that injects romance into the date. Evening dates are great and we're in the winter, so it's always freaking evening. So like cocktails are great, anything in the evening where you can kind of get a little bit more dressed up, put on a little bit more makeup than you normally would, and go and have something that's like a little bit romantic. I mean, just skip the interview dates. Yeah.
I love stargazing.
I'm so happy you're sharing these with me because some of them I wouldn't think of, or those just coffee seems such a low-hanging fruit that people are just like, oh, don't have to go for a drink or commit to dinner, we'll grab a coffee, but I think that needs to spice up a little.
It's not sexy.
Or go for a walk and a coffee, maybe like in Point Pleasant Park or something.
Imagine if Jeff took you to Tim Hortons for your first date.
Do you want to know what he did? We did do an activity, Jean-eva.
Oh yeah, we
did go to play mini golf. We went for lunch.
Oh, that's great. That's a beautiful.
I was 17.
No, that's beautiful. At 17, I think a lunch date is appropriate.
Lunch, mini golf, went back to his house, and then his friend, that was his neighbor, was having a party, so he invited me to stay around and go to the party. So it was like
he was going anyways. He hit all the boxes. Oh my God, Jeff Keel.
At 17, wow.
He was 19, but you're right. Yeah,
an older man.
But I think that's really great. Like having, I don't know, and letting someone, in your case of the quad adventure, it's like that person's letting you into something that's fun to them and that they enjoy doing, and they're bringing you along. I feel like that's really nice as well.
It is. Yeah. So on that note, you've told us how to set up for a good first date. What about a second and third date? Is there anything we need to be bringing into those that's a little different?
Always expect the second date to just not be as good as the first date. So if you have an amazing
wow.
Yes. If you have an amazing first date and you're excited for the second date, the expectations you have on the second date are so high that likely it will not meet that criteria.
Okay. I literally lower expectations again. A lot of it is about lowering the expectations.
Yeah. So
I'm not marrying you, and this is going to be worse than the first time.
And expect that ahead of time.
Yeah, pretty much. So first date, for example, if you are on the fence on if you want to see them again, like unless it's an absolute no, they're horrible, I never want to see them again. If you're on the fence and you're like, okay, that was an interesting conversation, that was an interesting date, I don't know if I'm super attracted to them, always say yes to a second date. Why not? Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But if you're super into the guy on the first date or the gal on the first date, usually the second date just kind of goes blah. And then if you get onto the third date, usually you know yes or no by the third date. So if you're on the fence on the first date, the third date will be the defining factor and you will know. Second and third date, you can do something a little bit more outside the city. Like that's when you can go hiking. That's when you can go out to Peggy's Cove. That's when you can, like third date, you can even go over to each other's house, cook each other's dinner. Hang out a little bit more. Okay. You know, all that kind of stuff.
All right. We're past the stranger danger a little at that point.
Exactly.
They're safe to continue.
Here's something I want to talk about with you. I have two things I really want to cover, but something we talked about a little when we first met, Jean-eva, and Ashley brought this up, is myself included, and a couple of my girlfriends are 31, 32. I'll talk about them and not me because otherwise this will sound weird. And they're beautiful, attractive women, super smart, very successful. Why is that a dating pool that is just existing? Still out there.
So do you mean like existing and not partnering up? Like what do you think?
Yeah, like why are they not scooped up? I want to know.
Like, and they're actively
and they're dating.
There. Yeah.
Tell us what's going on with the gals.
I don't know.
I know, right?
Be
Let me paint
gentle
you a
though, because
picture.
I'm also in this group.
Paint us a picture.
Let me paint you a picture of me okay, so they have great jobs, they're attractive, they're amazing women. When I was a geomatics engineer, I had finally made it. And, I was super independent. I was amazing. I was making good money. I was like, yes, I made it. Then I started dating in Calgary, and I honestly scared the men away on every single date. Like, my opening question was like, what's your 5-year plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I was like wearing my best pointy little blazer, and I was like, at coffee, y'all. Just kind of like
Not sexy.
not sexy at all. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't flirting.
Your
I
expectations
wasn't,
are here.
yes. I wasn't enjoying the process at all. I was like, this is what I need to do this month. This is on my to-do list. So that's usually the problem I see. A lot of the time they say, oh, I intimidate men, and they're probably not wrong. The successful women are very intimidating to some men, but honestly, the men out there, there's a lot of men out there that will not be intimidated. So long as you can allow yourself to have fun, allow yourself to flirt, enjoy the process. This isn't something that you just check off of your list. And I know that a lot of people say there's so many amazing women out there, especially in Halifax. We're so educated and driven and ambitious, especially in our early 30s. And they're like, where are those quality of men? Men socialize differently than women do. So
Ooh, hot tip.
that is something that we have to keep in mind. We have to think about where the men are.
Mark.
So the men, they're not at yoga. They're not at spin class. They're not at these
Smart
huge
ones are.
Jamie Lois was, not anymore.
He's scooped up. You're right though. There's usually like 1 or 2 out of 40 women.
So guys are at the gym, guys are at home, like renovating their house, guys are hanging out with dudes in their house. You have to go where the guys are. They're at house parties, they are at networking events, they are, out building their career. Like businessmen, like professional, driven, ambitious, driven businessmen, they are building their life. They're not at the social parties. They're not doing that. So, I mean, there's people that are, and they're great, but we have to expand our horizon on where we think we can meet them.
Ooh, I love that.
We do like host parties.
There's no networking events right now.
Soon.
I'm going to.
But that's a good point of view going forward to keep in mind.
That's a great point of view. Even just starting to ask yourself, well, where do men I'm attracted to actually hang out?
Like when you and the beautiful, successful single girls are thinking of going out for a night, just do the opposite of that.
Yeah, don't go to the middle spoon. Yeah, the guys aren't at the middle spoon. The guys aren't at I don't know. That's just a random place.
I've never been there.
It's like a dessert bar.
Okay.
But you do like dessert, but you don't, there's not men there. I've walked
the Mercantile, y'all. Where do you think I get all of my heavy hitter clients? Is the bar at the Mercantile.
We never go there.
We do go there.
We went there once, but we weren't really. We got actually Sarah and I embraced at the bar. We touched each other and we got yelled at for touching. So I don't know. That's good to know.
But that's some great advice for the incredible, amazing women out there is start going where incredible men are, and they aren't at our yoga studio.
Golfing.
This is good tips for us. Okay, I love that. The other thing that you've mentioned a couple times is this idea of your dating coaching, and that we have kind of past traumas and love blocks and things from our single life, habits from our single life that we hold on to. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little about those, or ones to watch out for?
Yes, I can. Oh gosh, that's a big question. So how our coaching program works, we have a 3-week coaching program, 3-month coaching program where you have 4 sessions. We have 3 different types. So we coach for men, we coach for women, and we coach for shy/introverted people. And so it's 3 different programs that we have that are specialized to 3 different types of people. And love blocks are huge. And there's 20 to 30 love blocks out there. One of the big one is fear of rejection is probably the biggest love block out there, where we're not putting ourselves out there because of fear of rejection. That is huge. I have an episode on the Book of Love podcast called Reverse Daddy Issues, which is romanticizing potential relationships. That's a huge love block that nobody talks about. And that is when basically you have had an amazing father. I call it reverse daddy issues, but you have an amazing father that has shown up for you your entire life and has shown you what, how a man should really treat you. And then those women have a really hard time in the dating world because the men that they're dating aren't showing up in that way. But when we take ourselves back to when our dad first met our mom, likely they were dating our mom just the same as these men are dating us. But what we're seeing is decades of work into a marriage later, and how he behaves with his daughter are two separate things. And then romanticizing the relationships that they could be is huge too. So we picture what our perfect relationship is going to look like. And when nobody meets those standards, we just automatically shut them down. So shutting them down before even allowing them to give them a chance is huge. So those are some main love blocks. We have attachment styles, which is huge. Have you guys ever worked with attachment styles?
No. What are attachment styles?
Oh, attachment styles are huge.
Really?
Everybody needs to know what attachment styles are.
Well, tell us, because we
Tell us
don't.
right now.
Okay, so this is like huge. Everything that comes out in
Listen up, everyone.
academic journals is all about attachment styles when it comes to intimate relationships right now. And attachment styles, there's 4 main ones if I can remember properly. So there's securely attached, which is the goal. Then there's anxious avoidant, which a lot of people are, and that's where we're creating unnecessary anxiety between communication. So it's usually done between conflict. For example, if you say something along the lines of, well, if he liked me enough, he would message me, and since he hasn't, I'm done with him. And you just kind of like knock them off. We've all done that several times. So that is attached to an attachment style. There's a million other like things with that. But that is one attachment style. Then there's anxious avoidant, where you're basically just avoiding all connections romantically with people because you don't want to get hurt. And then there's another one as well, which is just a smaller percentage of the 4 attachment styles and worth mentioning as well. But those 3, secure, avoidant, and anxious, are something that you can definitely look into. It's important to do it with a coach because it goes into a lot of it starts off with your relationship with your caregiver when you're a child. So it goes through past traumas and past experiences that bring you into this attachment style. But it's so important, especially when you're looking to date and partner up, because your attachment style will always come up within like the first 6 months of an early stage relationship. And it's affecting your ability to partner up with somebody.
I'm remembering now from Psych at St. Yvette's, the study with the monkey, and it's taken away from its mother, and then one's given to like a robot with a blanket on it. And there's insecure attachment as well, isn't it? Or and that's when they're not, like, people have always left them.
Yeah.
Essentially. Okay.
Abandonment issues. Yeah. So it goes in depth into that, but just becoming aware of it, and not necessarily that any attachment style is bad. It's just being aware of the behaviors of the attachment style characteristics that you tend to have, so that when they come up as you're dating, you can say, oh, this isn't how I'm actually feeling. This is my attachment style making me feel this way. This is why I'm feeling this way. So I am going to behave in a different pattern from my past because I recognize that this pattern or this style of communication is based on something that I can't control. Which is powerful when you can take your emotions that you're feeling in an early stage relationship and you can recognize it and address it. Then it's so powerful.
We love that. How do we start to move through some of these blocks if we're recognizing them in ourselves, Jean-eva?
So the first step to move through them is to realize what your blocks are. So doing the personal growth and personal work, which a lot of people don't want to do because it takes a lot of reflection and it's hard. I don't know if you guys have done any personal growth prior to moving forward. Yeah.
I actually just came up across one last week, and I'll share it right now. Yeah, it was about discernment, and it's about my willingness to walk away from things when they aren't what I want. And rather than normally I'll just kind of like wait for someone else to, like, even if I've decided this isn't right for me, for some reason I'll keep going with it. because I'll be like, well, they are a nice person, and I'll just wait and see if it doesn't work for them, and then we'll end at that point, and I'll be okay with it. When it's actually about actually being okay with me choosing that I'm not, like, deciding I'm not into someone and then leaving then.
So being more discerning in your qualification process when dating.
Yeah, and like being okay with when I'm like, this isn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
And not needing someone else to make that decision.
Yeah. And have you kind of like exercised that at all?
Yes.
Recently.
How does it feel?
Good. And it was coming, like, and that was how it came up. It's like, there are a lot of things that are good about this, but this is not it's not all the things that are important to me. Even though there's like some really good things, there's other people who also have those good qualities.
And a really important factor to add to the discerning of, like, for example, waiting for somebody to end it or whatever it may be, is when you start communicating earlier on of what your needs are. It almost, if the relationship isn't a good fit, it'll almost end anyhow. Not necessarily because you guys are just trucking along and, you know, moving forward, and it just kind of like eventually it just ends. But if you start communicating what your needs are and figure out what those are, and you communicate those a little earlier on, they are going to, I remember I was dating somebody, you know, 3 months ago, and we started talking about politics, and we very much conflicted, and it was over after that 7th date, because we were pushing the conversations to get them out to just check for compatibility. And honestly, we would have probably just puttered around until we got committed, and then we just kind of moved through, and then who knows what would have happened 6 months later. We probably would have imploded. So yeah, that's amazing.
Well, and we actually talked about this on our last episode. The reason was just like, I wanted to see someone more regularly to actually get to know them, and that just didn't match up on timelines. So we ended up having like a great conversation, and it was fine. We were both like, okay, well, this was lovely. You're a good human. See you around.
That's a great way to do it. Amazing.
So that was my most recent personal development and love block. But it's good to go through those, and it's nice to hear you talk about them, because I do think as you are starting to date, you recognize things that you want, and it's all part of kind of clarifying actually, you know, what you need and what you need to do.
It's the same with you, Ashley. I mean, like, a lot of people think that like once you're married, it's happily ever after, because that's what the movies have told us. But I'm sure you can attest that it's a lot of conversation and a lot of work all the time.
Yes, all the time. And still, disagreements are kind of, you know, different perspectives or points of view. And at the end of the day, when you know you're compatible and found that person, it's like you still always like come back to finding a different kind of middle ground, or just like respecting that person and their opinion. You're just like, ah, cool. Or sometimes I just don't care. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Like,
but you know, yeah, you're figuring out how to work together on those things.
Yeah. Aww. And you don't necessarily get annoyed as much like by the opinion, like when you're first dating someone, of course that's really important to be like, that's a deal breaker, like they don't want kids or whatever it is. But I think it's important. This is bringing back memories of when we got married, or before we got married. We got married in the Catholic Church, and just both of our families are Catholic, so we thought that was the right thing to do. And they make you take a course before, which is like a weekend, and it was actually lovely. We dreaded it, but we met some like very lovely people. They fed us, and it was just like a huge conversation and like weekend of, you know, very interesting. But that's something that they really focused on, was like having these conversations, because I'm sure that people come to that point of almost getting married and they're like, oh, we haven't actually like read through and discussed these topics or like these opinions. So as old school as it kind of is, I was like, this is actually a good exercise to go through and make sure you do talk about the future of your family or kids, whatever it is. Because can you imagine being 3 months before getting married and just realizing that, oh, maybe we aren't very compatible?
And that's the beautiful thing about the church too, is that they were very adamant on like marriage counseling and that pre-marriage stuff. But nowadays, there's no, like, our only leaders truly are our parents. And if they have the prerogative to educate us on that, or if we are even willing to listen to them, like, there's a lot of people entering into marriage without even truly knowing what the vision is for the relationship in the future. Crazy.
That's interesting, having a vision for your relationship. One other thing I want to ask about, Jean-eva, is dating for men. You given us some tips for women. Do you have any tips for the single men out there?
Yeah, so just dating in general, are we talking about like a first date, or gosh, there's like a million tips.
Well, I think if we look at, young, ambitious men looking for partnership as they date.
Or maybe that applies to them finding, how Sarah was talking about her friends, that they're all, like, guys are also not looking. Maybe they're then spending too much time at the soccer field or home renovations, and like they're not able to then branch over and meet like where the women are. So like, how do these two kind of like meet together?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that's really important for us to consider is how expensive dating is for men. And nobody talks about that. So women can literally go on tons of dates, and like, yes, there's a lot of women out there that want to go Dutch, and it can get sort of pricey. But when you're dating a high value man, he does want to cover the bill quite often, and he has to be discerning on the women that he chooses to go out with, because it does add up big time. And so a lot of the biggest advice I give men is just like, avoid the big dinners, go somewhere inexpensive. Like, women don't care about where you take them, how fancy it is, and those who do, you probably don't want to be with them anyhow. Women just want you to put the effort in. They want you to plan it. They want you to lead it, like lead the date, organize the date, open her door, pull out her chair, hold her jacket. Chivalry is not dead. And a lot of women truly like it. And if they don't like it, then that's okay. You're kind of like learning that along the way. But continue on with the chivalry and lead the date, and go somewhere inexpensive, like, grabbing a cocktail or a beer someone. It's not that expensive to do, and keep it relatively inexpensive will allow you to enjoy the date a lot more, rather than holding resentment towards these women that you're going out with. So women don't owe you anything either. So if you were to take her out for a drink and you're covering everything, like, their company is 100% all you need. Just to be able to spend that hour and a half with a beautiful woman is, you're blessed to even have that. So, but outside of that, to just lead it, have some plans put together. Outfit is very important. Have some proper clothing to wear, have it nicely pressed, and have like a first date outfit that you have designed for your first date.
And not have flip-flops as part of that.
I know a lot of women here, like, I knew, like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of women have seen some crazy stuff on a first date.
I
that
don't
men
like
are wearing
flip-flops on a first date. I'm like, put shoes on.
Okay, so if you're looking to take Sarah out on a date, wear proper shoes.
And let's not wear the khaki shorts with all those pockets. We don't need that many pockets on a date.
Those are dad shorts. Like,
yeah.
Unless you're over 60.
I'm just joking.
Mark always looks good. He always smells good. I can't wait to ask him about his first dates after this. But that's really practical and like useful advice, I think, for the guys out there.
And also, the men need to manage their expectations.
Also lower them?
Yes, lower your expectations. So it's your intention of the date that's going to ruin the date, basically. So if your intention of the date is, that you are going to get laid, or you're going to get lucky, or you're going to make her fall in love with you, and that's what you're going to go and do, you're going to get really nervous, and you're probably going to botch the date. So again, if you go in with like, hey, I get to spend the evening with a lovely woman and have a great conversation. If something happens at the end, awesome. If not, cool. But you're just like being charming and being funny, and don't be afraid to, be flirty and, pick on her a little bit, and, razz her a little bit. We love it. We love to be flirted with. We love to be, picked on a little bit. It's a great way to flirt, and enjoy the process. Do not take it so seriously. We don't care how great your job is. We don't care how much money you make. We don't care about all the people that you know. We just want a genuine human connection with you. So if you could just humble yourself and bring you down to our level, and we want to enjoy the process and enjoy the date, that's really all we can do.
That's fabulous advice.
That's great. So Jean-eva, we had some very good questions that some of our listeners and followers wrote to us through Instagram. I think we may have covered one or two, but we still have a couple. So one wants to know, do opposites really attract?
What do you guys think?
What do I think? I think yes, but I think
yes, too.
this is where compatibility maybe doesn't come in.
Or maybe
I don't-
you're opposite, but still compatible. Like, is that opposite in personalities, but compatible in interests?
I don't know.
It depends on the opposite. It depends on the opposite. So introverts and extroverts get along so well. So that kind of opposite, yes, they are super compatible. But when you are opposite on ambition level, or you're opposite on like extreme opposite on political views, or
Religious
Yeah,
views.
like religion, I feel like is a big one.
or you come from extremely different backgrounds. For example, if she came from a little bit of a harder childhood and he came from a privileged childhood, yeah, star-crossed lovers, the passions there, what have you, but it's definitely going to conflict when you decide to get married and start a family together, whatever it may be. Now, they do attract 100%, but it's still all the same process of figuring out compatibility. So I think opposites do attract because they're fascinating. Somebody that's completely different than you is so fascinating. But whether or not that's conducive to a healthy future relationship, you guys will have to determine that. But as a matchmaker, I never match opposites, ever.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
What's the number one thing you look for in compatibility?
Oh my gosh, there's like a million things that you look for in a compatibility, but the most important thing, activity level is very important.
Activity level?
Yeah, so somebody's activity level, like if you have somebody who is a complete health freak and the other person isn't, they're very rarely going to get along.
Oh, that's a good one.
I can see that because it does come into, yeah, your health.
And like, what about even social activities? Is what I'm thinking about. I guess that's introvert, extrovert, kind of like compatibility.
Yeah.
So if a guy wants to sit home and eat and play video games and the girl wants to run and eat healthy, not going to work.
No, it's not going to work. So of course, children, marriage, very important for compatibility. Politics, smoking, drinking styles is huge. So I ask people a lot about like what their drinking style is. The same with 420. Like, what's your 420 style? Like, what kind of? Oh my gosh, there's a puppy right there.
There's a puppy here.
That's what we've been randomly staring, but she just like jumped. So I'm like, she wants to make an appearance. She's looking for her soulmate.
She has a needy attachment style.
Oh,
Sarah's babysitting Rue.
Yeah, it's allowed.
So those are great pieces of advice for compatibility. We have another question here. Ashley, if you want to read this bad boy.
I took my glasses off, hence the phone up close here. What advice would you offer for newly divorced people who are looking to get back into dating? They're ready for it.
So number one advice is to make sure that you actually are. So make sure that you're not going back into dating just because you're lonely. Make sure that you truly are, everything is figured out. So it's not fair to future partners for you to still be figuring out custody, or for you to still be figuring out what the arrangement's going to be with a previous relationship. It's just not fair. It's not fair on anybody. So really take the time to work on figuring that out. We can't just avoid that, continue to date, because you're bringing that into somebody else. Like literally, it's damaged people, hurt people hurting people. So if you're hurting, do not date, you guys. Do not date. You have to do the personal work. So please, 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 just make sure that everything is figured out and that you are able to mentally and emotionally add value to a future partner before you ever start dating. There's a divorce attorney in Halifax, and if I find out who it is, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But he tells men that are just recently divorced to go on Hinge or go online dating. That's part of his treatment, and I just need to find him and do something. I don't know.
Tell him not to.
I know.
Why is it his business? Why is he giving them advice on what to do next? Just do the legal work.
I know, right? No, sorry, it's not a divorce attorney. It's a therapist that specializes in,
like a
counselor. Yeah, that's what it is. Sorry. Yeah.
And if you're listening, stop telling people that.
And I feel like also people that have been just recently divorced, or maybe a divorce for a long time, and they're still having a hard time getting back out there, they should just give you a shout. I feel like this could be very helpful for them to kind of like sharpen those tools again.
And we actually have Patricia. She's our associate matchmaker that focuses on widows, widowers, and people that have been divorced and 45 plus, because they've lived a life. They've gone through a lot. And not only that, but when they went into the marriage and when they came out, it's a completely different dating climate. So it's extremely daunting to even think about getting back out into the dating world or how to do it. And their social life is very, very different as well. So yeah, definitely seeking a help from myself, my team, coaching. We have all kinds of amazing events that go on too, which will definitely jumpstart your dating life. I get a lot of people that come to a speed dating event, and it's not necessarily that they are finding partnership there, but it's giving them, when you have 10 dates in one night, you're like, I'm a dating expert. So if you go on a bunch of dates the following week, you're going to do really good at it. So yeah.
Dust off the cobwebs. Jean-eva, if there's no chemistry at the first meeting, should you give it a second chance?
It depends on what people are calling chemistry.
Oh, tell us what chemistry is.
That's a really good question. Okay. What do you guys think about chemistry on a date? Like, have you said that recently?
Yeah, I've gone on a date recently where there was just no chemistry, and they're a really nice person. Our conversation didn't flow naturally. It wasn't that either of us were nervous. I think if someone was nervous, I would be understanding of that. I wasn't going to leave and think, oh, I wish I had asked them this, or I'd like to talk to this person again.
Mm-hmm.
So good. For me, that was just clear that there was no chemistry. Mm-hmm. But defining what makes chemistry is a bit different.
Like if you're kind of interested, I don't know, there's just like a good back and forth.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm concerned about when people say that they don't want to see them again because there's no chemistry is a lot of people almost use it as an excuse to feeling that they're not necessarily as attracted to the person as they should be. But, you do want a decent conversation. You want something that flows naturally. You want there to be banter. You want there to be flirtation. And you want to see yeah, I could see this person again. You're not going to have fireworks. I think it's mostly just fireworks that when people say there's no spark, I think that's the one that kind of gets me, because a spark is something that's derived from media that, probably doesn't really exist. And sometimes chemistry and sparks is just like a menagerie of anxiety. Like it's an anxiety of not understanding where you stand with somebody. So chemistry, if there's no chemistry, absolutely, there's no need to see them again. But we need to be very careful around the word of spark, or I'm looking for fireworks or whatever it is. That will hold you back. Or butterflies. That will hold you back big time.
They may come later. If I think about meeting people in real life, it's not necessarily when I run into them in a bar for the first time that I'm having that sparkly connection.
Yeah, maybe just passing them in the street.
Well, actually, I probably am a little bit, but but not always, right? And then you spend time with them, and then it becomes exciting.
Yeah, but chemistry, you definitely need to have chemistry on a first date for sure.
Okay, give it a second thought. Think about it.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Jean-eva, this has been absolutely fabulous. How can you've told us so much about what you do. Mm-hmm. It sounds amazing. You're a fantastic resource. How can people work with you, or how can they find out more about the work that you do?
Yeah, totally. So I am on every single social media that ever existed except for Twitter. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you can find me at J-E Matchmaking. So J-E Matchmaking. Go to my website at www.jematchmaking.com. It kind of leads you everywhere. So the website is the hub. That's where you can take a look at my podcast. That's where you can book in your phone consultation. That's where you can check out all the pricing of our services. All of our events are up there, as well as a bunch of book suggestions. Books and learning is super important when you are starting to date again, because sometimes people think that you're just supposed to go out there and just figure it out. But we really have to study and work on becoming the best version of ourselves so we can find the proper partner for ourselves as well. And so the website is huge. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at these books right now.
Lots of them.
Oh, so many. This is fabulous. I like that you bring in this app.
Get the Guy is the best one with Matt Hussey. He is like a dating coaching king.
Oh, I've heard of him. Mm-hmm. He's in England. Is he British?
Yeah, beautiful and British.
Beautiful and British. We like that.
Why not read it?
I like that you bring in this aspect of self-reflection and doing our own work to have a better dating experience. I think that's super important. I'm glad that you explained that to us all today.
Yeah, because it's not my goal. Like, I am only one person. I cannot find everybody's love of their life. So if I can give them the tools to go out there and find them themselves, I will absolutely do that. And you have to invite me to the wedding.
That sounds like a fair deal.
Before we wrap, Jean-eva, we'd like to ask everyone who comes on the podcast, what is lighting you up right now? What are you excited about?
Honestly, what's lighting me up right now the most is my singles weekend that I have planned for 2020. I was watching Schitt's Creek and Alexis did a singles weekend. And so like I have spent all day planning like the workshops, the events, the hotel that it's going to be at, because we're going to rent out an entire hotel for it.
Ooh.
So like honestly, just building business and just trying to figuring out COVID. I think just trying to figure out how to build business through COVID is lighting me up because it's so inspirational.
Oh, that's a lovely take. We love that so
Something
much.
to look forward to in
Yeah.
the near future.
Definitely. Before we
Yeah, I was
wrap,
gonna say, Sarah, we cannot, as I said, I can't see, but we're gonna play a made-up game that we've made called Queeniegram. So Sarah is going to kind of scroll through. You'll pick a number between 1 and
99.
99, and then we'll all play. So it's just like a very random question.
We'll ask you a question.
Okay. So pick any number. I want to say 62.
All right.
62. This is perfect for you. So perfect. What is the worst pickup line you've ever heard?
Oh gosh. I haven't heard many pickup lines before. I'm not the type of gal people walk up to and try a pickup line on.
Well, I don't know what that means, Jean-eva. I'd walk up to you and give you a pickup line, but you probably, surely some of your clients have told you pickup lines or things they've heard.
I hear all the time, from like movies and stuff is, do your feet hurt because you've been walking through my head all day?
Oh.
I have to say the worst pickup line, especially on online dating, is, hey.
Hey.
Why would you just say hey?
Oh, what's the opening line? Give us a good one.
Oh, the opening line is honestly looking through somebody's profile and send something cheeky fun. Like if somebody's profile has something interesting, send them something cheeky and fun. Even if they don't respond, who cares? Everybody's like, well, nobody responds to it. Well, there's going to be somebody where that just absolutely makes their day. So there's this one guy that said, I can tell a lot about your personality by the type of cheesecake that you eat. So then I would send him the cheesecake that I eat, and then we would start a conversation. You know, he gets it a million times all day, but it's just better than, hey, how's it going, or whatever.
I like that.
That's great advice.
And if you're only looking at 10 profiles a day, it's not that hard to come up with an interesting pickup line on online dating. It's when you're mass messaging people that you're sending just hays.
True.
Oh, good tip. I do have one question that I totally forgot to ask. But for any of the gals or guys out there who are shy and even shy through text, how do they get that first message out? What can they say? If like coming up with a cheeky line is going to be, can't do it.
Super hard for them. Yeah. And there's actually, we have a lot of clients. It's the same thing. Like, I'm like, what would you say? And they're like, and they have no idea. So there's a lot of people out there that would not know what to say. Maybe just some don'ts. Don't comment on a woman's beauty. So don't comment on her looks. If you're going to comment on anything, say that you like her outfit, you like her style, you like where she is, where she's traveled to in her pictures, or something like that. Just don't say you're beautiful, you're hot, you're sexy, anything like that.
Okay.
So,
and if you're a girl wanting to message a guy,
if you're a shy gal wanting to message a guy, honestly, guys are kind of okay with just hey.
All right, gals.
But you'll get bonus points if you go above and beyond the hey.
Send a funny GIF or GIF, whatever you call it.
I think also this might sound not creative, but like if you really don't know what to say, like Google something. Surely there's blogs out there with like interesting pickup lines.
Smart idea. There's lots of options out there that you can Google, but we have like guys don't get as many matches as we think we do. Just like normal guys, they are just happy with anybody like saying hey to them.
Mark, can you just weigh in real quick? How many matches are you? Oh, he said head shake. No.
I'm shallow.
He's shy.
Oh, yeah, you're so shy, Mark.
Does that mean that you don't get a lot of matches coming through?
I don't swipe right a lot.
Are you sticking to your
He's doing 10 a day.
quality over quantity?
He's doing quality control.
Oh, he's discerning. So
I don't know. When
Okay.
someone told me the other day that you can run out of likes in a day, and I had no idea.
Oh. Have you that hasn't happened to you. So he's telling us you can run out of likes in a day.
We
That's
don't
cool.
know.
Sarah hasn't got that crazy.
No.
Yeah.
Ashley, pick a number.
99.
99. What is your serial killer power?
Oh, we already know this, and we've talked about it before. It's moving. Professional mover.
She's
I've
excellent.
moved 3 times in a year, just by chance, but I don't mind it. I like to organize. Pick one, Sarah?
All right, mine's number 2. First date, booze or coffee. Well, thanks
After
to the
after this
very
conversation.
helpful Jean-eva, I'm gonna say booze. But I would always only do that anyway. So
More fun.
takes the edge off.
I mean, now I'm picturing, because a lot of the restaurants are doing like the take-home service, like get some booze and some food and like go sit in a park, play a game. I don't know.
Coffee mugs, hello, filled with wine. Go for a little walk.
Wouldn't that intrigue you if the guy showed up? You just thought you were going for a walk and he's like, hey, get something.
I
for you."
love when guys plan things. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's so nice, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing to do when we were still in lockdown and everything was still virtual is I would have each person tell me what they wanted to order on Skip the Dish, and I'd have the other person's favorite dish sent to the other person, and then they would come in for a video date and they would open the food and eat it together and explain to each other why it's their favorite dish.
Cute.
Isn't that cute?
Option.
Love that.
I was thinking that, worst case scenario, and you had to do some like virtual dating, like have a drink together or a meal, maybe not a meal on the first date, but like a drink together virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want to see someone eating spaghetti in front of your
No, I'm
face?
laughing because I'm thinking of like, how would you get out of that?
Lost internet. Internet was
Just
down.
hang up. Sorry.
Might be a great way to get out. Anyway, this is.
You know what I'm
so
organizing for all my dates now, because nobody can go anywhere, is I'm actually creating a map of all the big houses in the South End here, and I'm creating little histories of each house, and I'm going to send the couples out with the map, and then they can read the histories of the houses while they're walking around these beautiful neighborhoods.
Oh my God, Jean-eva,
Cool.
you got to make that a downloadable. We can buy it from you because I want it.
And someone
I know.
takes Sarah on a date.
Yes,
Hello.
listen up, guys. That's what you got to get, and then we'll go on a date.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sure
can
they're
direct
lining
them
up.
to me. Talk to Jean-eva and then let me know.
We're directing everyone to you. This has been
Naya
so
for you, girl.
informative, and I've learned so much, and I'm not even in the dating world, but I find this very interesting and helpful. I think just to know, because we do have lots of family members, friends.
I'm excited. 10 swipes a day, not feast or famine. Keep it consistent. I got
Low
some tips.
expectations.
Girl, you've had a ton of tips already, Lynn. And let me just say how amazing your mindset is already. Like, you are light years ahead of most people, and you should be so proud of that, just so you know.
I was light years behind just a few months ago. So for all our listeners,
There's hope.
There's hope.
They too can learn.
Yes.
I love that.
thanks so much, Jean-eva. This has been so fabulous.
Having me, girls.
Thank you. Stop.
Yes.